Hello and welcome. Today we will look at logistics execution and warehouse management. We'll first look at a few key terms, see what the structures are, and then go into the system and see how these structures behave in a live IDIS system. So this is what logistics execution is and its different components. Logistics execution, or LE as it is known, was introduced in the SAP R3 4.5a system landscape, and it was used to group together and develop existing subfunctions of logistics. So initially, material management is what was in control of warehouse management, and SD were kind of shipping and transportation. So after logistics execution was formally introduced, shipping and transportation is now common with logistics execution and sales and distribution, and warehouse management, though mainly belongs to logistics execution, has a lot of interaction and interfaces with materials management. Warehouse management has interfaces with different components: inventory management, delivery processes, production planning and control, and quality management. Out of these, probably the most significant is the interface to inventory management. Inventory management postings either trigger warehouse management activities or mark their completion in goods receipts and goods issue processes. And we will take a closer look at those goods issue and goods receipt processes as we move forward. The connection to delivery processing within LE plays a particularly significant role in sales order processing. Generally, goods are picked up on the basis of outbound deliveries. And if you want to provide a regular supply of components to production, that's where the interface with production control comes into play. Finally, if you also use quality management in your implementation, you can configure the interface to warehouse management to control how goods are dealt with in the warehouse if they have to undergo a quality inspection. So this slide shows the positioning of warehouse management within the overall systems of logistics. In customizing, you must connect the organization units specific to logistics execution to other, often superordinate organization units in order to be able to map the logistics processes. The warehouse number is always linked to a storage location and a plant. This means that a connection is created between warehouse management and inventory management, because the storage location is the organizational unit for quantity-based inventory management. So the storage location is linked to the plant, and warehouse number is linked to both storage location and plant. You can also see from here that you do not have to link every storage location to a warehouse, and also that there is a one-to-many relationship between a warehouse number and a plant storage combination. So you can have multiple plant and storage combinations linked to a warehouse, but you can't have it the other way around, which is that you can't have a specific plant and storage location combination linking to this and this two warehouse numbers. That's not possible. So the figure here shows the structure of a warehouse. Each warehouse number includes a number of subordinate organizational units, and this is dependent on your customizing settings. We'll go into those shortly. These are storage types and storage sections, all of which are used to map the relationship to the warehouse. The storage types organizational units are used to map storage spaces that are separated either spatially or organizationally, or that should be handled separately in the SAP system. The standard system already contains a number of pre-configured storage types such as high rack storage, fixed bin storage, and bulk storage, and you can change these default values as required in your company. The main section of the warehouse management customizing settings is storage type specific. So the main work you'll do when you're working on warehouse is around the storage type area. A type of master data record is assigned to each storage type in customizing, and you make the basic settings for controlling putaways and stock removal processes separate. So let us now quickly log on to the system and have a look at a few customizing settings that we've discussed. So I choose the ERP IDIS system and I enter my user ID and password. And to go to customizing, I use the transaction code SPRO, and this is what customizing in SAP looks like. So here I go to the enterprise structure, where I will first define a new warehouse and then assign it to a plant storage location. So I go to definition, logistics execution, define a warehouse number. So when I define, typically what I do is I take an existing warehouse, let's take a central one, and simply copy that. So I'm user 35, so I will create a warehouse called 135, and that's it. It's been created. This is my central warehouse. The system asks me if I want to save my changes. I say yes. I'll be asked for a request. This change request is used to record changes that you've made, so that these changes can be tracked and transported to a test system or a production system or so on. I can create my own request, but typically in a project you will be asked, you will be given a request to which you can assign your different changes. So I take an existing one, and here I have saved my changes. And as we saw in the earlier slides, here are the other components of logistics execution. So I can define a new shipping point, a loading point, or a transportation planning point. But we will restrict ourselves to a warehouse number. So we have created a new warehouse. Now it is time to do the assignment. So I go to logistics execution, assign warehouse number to a plant storage location combination. I click execute, and here I see there are quite a few entries. I want to assign my new warehouse to plant 1200 and storage location 155, which is a standard, one of the standard IDIS storage locations. So instead of going all the way down trying to search, you can simply use this position and find out your plant and the storage location, and I click enter, and hopefully this is where I am. So what I do typically is I take this entry, currently warehouse number 155 is assigned to this. I just copy this and assign my warehouse number 145, which is the one I've just created. Now if you remember a while back, we discussed that we cannot assign more than one warehouse number to a plant storage location combination, but I'm trying to do that. So let's see what happens next. I press enter, and I get a message saying the target key must be different from the source key. So the system is intelligent. If you try to make a mistake, it will not let you do that. So what I need to do now is to go back, do my process again, and replace this entry by my new entry 145. I hit save. It asks me for a request, and there my data is saved. So what we've just done is we've created a new warehouse and assigned it to a plant storage location combination in customizing, and we have seen how the system does not let you assign more than one warehouse to a specific plant storage location combination. Going back to our slides, we will cover a few more and then go back into the system to see the various structures and processes. So this is what different storage bin types are. We could have one which is high bin or a low bin, and these are attached to a storage section. So if you want to maintain material stocks at storage bin level, you must create storage bins as master data in SAP, and you must also decide whether bin stock should be mixed or non-mixed storage, and whether existing bin stocks can be increased or not. Storage bins are always created within storage sections. Storage sections divide up the area of a storage type according to various features such as the inventory turnover of the stocks or the warehouse temperature, for example. Within the entire warehouse complex defined by the warehouse number in SAP, the storage type itself represents a storage space that should be separated in the SAP system at organization level, and usually also at a spatial level. You can assign a storage bin type when you create a storage bin type. This is particularly useful if the storage bins within a storage sections have different dimensions. Bin types are categories that you define for each warehouse number in customizing to specify the rough dimension of storage bins. For example, bin width 1 meter, bin length 2 meters, and so on. Now we come to the concept of the quant. In SAP, the contents of a storage bin is called a quant. A quant is a material quantity in a storage bin. In the warehouse management system, materials can be viewed and moved in quants only. The actual material number is irrelevant, as is the unit of measure. However, there are default criteria which the warehouse management system uses to decide which material quantities form a quant in a storage bin. So some of those criteria are material number, stock category, special stock assignment, batch number, plant and storage location assignment of the material. So based on these 5 criteria, the system decides while doing goods issue or goods posting and other processes how the stocks are handled and how they are treated in further processes. There are 2 key processes in logistics execution: goods receipts and goods issues, and there are 2 basic ways to map processes for goods receipts and goods issues. You can either create a delivery or place an inventory management posting at the beginning of a process. If you work with deliveries, warehouse management activities, so putaways, transfer order confirmation, etc., are completed before the posting happens. So if you work with deliveries, these 3, 1, 2 and 3 are typical warehouse management activities. They happen before you actually post the goods. However, the goods receipt posting, which is a typical inventory management activity, can happen in the beginning, which basically means that the goods receipt or goods issue posting generates a transfer requirement which forms the basis for warehouse management activities in terms of planning and posting. A put away or picking activity with a transfer order completes this process. In many cases, the reason for put away or stock removal already determines how the processes are mapped. For goods receipts from production, for example, the standard system only offers a goods receipt posting for the work order with subsequent put away. For sales order processing, on the other hand, the stock removal is usually based on the goods issue. So this first one typically indicates a sales order kind of processing, and this one is a production order or purchase order kind of processing. One of the key entities in warehouse management is the so-called transfer order. Warehouse management in SAP uses a special document, the transfer order, to map and control warehouse movements. When you create a transfer order, the system checks all of the relevant settings at customizing or master data level and uses this data to determine suitable storage bins for put away or storage bin stocks for removal. You also have an option to select or specify the bins and bin stocks manually. So let us now go into the system and have a quick look at some of these entities and transactions. So we are in customizing SPRO and we are going to create a new storage area with a new storage type and also divide that into two sections for fast and slow moving items. So we need to go to logistics execution, and now we need to go to warehouse management. Master data is where you define your storage areas and storage types. So we go to define storage type. Here again we will take our warehouse and not the SAP standard one, which is 001. (035) and we take the storage type 001, which is the high rack. So this is what we get. Now we just copy this and we change our storage type to 15. The system has copied the entries. Number of entries copied 1. So if we just go back, we need to change the description appropriately. I will call it test, and then I simply save. When I save, the system asks me for a change request, which we've discussed earlier. So some of the settings within a storage type are things like you can decide on the put away strategy, bulk storage, open storage, fixed bins, etc. You can say whether you want to allow a mixed storage, you want to allow addition to stock. This essentially means that a quantity of a particular material and a particular batch can be placed in storage in a storage bin with the same material and the same batch as an addition to existing stock. The mixed storage essentially allows whether several quants can be stored in a storage bin. The storage of several different quants in a bin includes materials with different features. If you recall, we discussed those 5 features which define a quant. So here, if this is marked, that means you can store materials with different features, for example different batches together. Without storage unit management, only one quant exists for each item. So we won't cover all of the settings, but this is where you make the different settings for storage type definitions, and these in turn drive your processes. So we've now created our own storage type in our own warehouse. Let's now go and create some storage sections. So we go back. This is where you define storage sections, and we are going to create 2 sections, slow moving items and fast moving items. So we can see some of these have already been created. Instead of creating it from scratch on our own, what we can do is simply take these 2 and copy, and this is where we now change the warehouse number to our warehouse and the type to our storage type. And all we need to do now is to press enter and save. So the system gives me a message saying number of entries copied 2, and if I scroll down, I should be getting the message here as well. Again the change request, and I have now effectively managed to create 2 storage areas in my storage type 15. So that was a very quick overview of some of the simple customizing concepts. We'll now take a quick look at the material master and a quick look at the transactions within the system. So let us first go to a material that is managed in a warehouse management scenario. So we can just select this one. Now if I go to select views, I should see my warehouse management. So I've got my views here, and those are the views I'm interested in. This material is defined for plant 1200, warehouse 001. Storage type is optional. You can maintain or not maintain it. For this material it is not maintained, and I go to my warehouse management view in a material master, and here are different settings, some of which I've defined in customizing. Go to warehouse management 2 view, and if this is palletization data. If I go into the change mode, I can change this palletization data. But what we'll try to do now is this material does not have any storage type information, so we will extend this material so as to be able to put in some storage type specific information as well. So for that we go to material create. Let me just show you here. We go back and go to logistics, material management. You can go to any of these really. Master data is common, and a shortcut transaction is available, mm01. So what we will do is, this was the material we were looking at. We'll create the same material, copy from the existing one, so I get this message. Material type and industry copied from master record, which is basically the same material. Now I select my views and I want to extend my warehouse management views. What the system says is I can extend it by copying it from an existing plant and warehouse number. So I'll simply do this. Now this one I want to create storage type 5 for this exercise, which is a fixed bin storage, and there's nothing for me to choose from really because storage types do not yet exist for this material. So what I'm doing as part of this exercise is I'm creating additional views or additional records for a material that already exists. These views would be the storage type specific. So I press enter. I get a message saying the material already exists and will be extended. This is a standard way of creating additional views or records for a material. So here I get some additional pieces of information, storage bin specific pieces of information that I can put in these fields here. So what we've just done is extended the material TD00, which is a board for modem, and included a storage bin related information here. So I just save it and I exit. Get the message, material created, although what I've done is simply extended it. So what we do now is we go to a sales order. VA03 is the transaction, and we look at how the transfer order is created for an outbound delivery which comes from a sales order. So very quick, I open this order, I look at my document flow, and this is my transfer order. This is what a transfer order looks like. It has the warehouse number, it has the actual TO number, and it has the material that are being picked. And typically a transfer order for outbound deliveries are linked to a delivery itself, and these are followed by the actual goods issue. So we'll now go back to our SAP menu. This is not customizing, this is what the end user does in terms of processes, logistics execution, outbound processes, goods issue for outbound delivery. So we've just seen a transfer order for an outbound delivery, but typically in a live environment, the people or the clerks responsible for creating transfer orders would do it in a collective basis. So I'm going to create a transfer order via outbound delivery monitor, and this is what the outbound delivery monitor looks like. So while executing this, I need to give the correct shipping point, which in our case is shipping point 1000. I need to give the appropriate date range. I'm giving a wide range because in this IDIS system there is some of the data is a little old. So I've got this delivery that is waiting to be picked, and I need to select this and say create a transfer order. I'm doing it in foreground so you can see how exactly it works, and here it asks me for a plant and warehouse information, and this is how the transfer order is created. And just save it, and there I go. So if I choose a different shipping point and run the same selection, I get a multiple list of deliveries. I can select the ones that I want to and collectively try to create a transfer order in the foreground. And out of all the deliveries that I had selected, this is the only one that is currently in a state suitable for picking. Another important thing is if you want to check stock at a bin level, this is where you do display total stock per material at a specific bin level. So I get no result from this. I go to information system, so under the information system I can do a more generic search. So I go to stock for all materials in warehouse number 35. There is no data. Let's try warehouse number 37. So I get my information. So this is my material, this is the storage bin where it is, this is the storage type, sales location, plant, etc. And when I click on this, I get more information. So this was the user menu. So we've seen master data, we've seen transaction data, and we've seen some customizing. Hope you enjoyed this session, and see you again soon.